Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Beat Your Addiction with John Giordano. I'm your co-host, Scott Jones. And before we get started with the show, just want to remind you, we're not out there spending tons of money to make the market and do all this stuff. It's up to you to share this with your friends and to make sure that you like this and subscribe to the channel. And certainly leave comments. And if you want to know more about John or anything that we're doing on the show, easiest way to do it, go to johnjgiordano.com. It's right there on your screen. Go there and check out everything John's doing. Get a hold of his books, and certainly you can reach out to him that way too.
Yeah, what the reason why we did this podcast is to give people good information from our guests, from us, so it helps people with their lives. People that are suffering from depression, anxiety, people that have addictions, and I mean addictions, not just drugs and alcohol, eating disorders, gambling, and so forth and so forth. And, shopping addiction. There's all kinds of different addictions that people say, well, how do you know it's an addiction? Well, it's real simple. When you continue to use a substance or a behavior in spite of adverse consequences, maybe you need to take a look at it.
Absolutely. So we tackle a lot of different topics on this show. We talk to a lot of different people, and once again, we were able to get somebody who I'm very interested in having a conversation with. John, certainly, he's a member of our sober clan, if we will. An author. His name is Steve Moffe. And he's coming to us from out in Colorado. We appreciate it. He has a book out. It's called It's an Inside Job, Kid. And he'll explain exactly what that title means. But those of you who are in recovery probably already understand the reference when they say it's an inside job. That's available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. But John, let's bring Steve in and let's get this thing rolling.
We're rolling.
Steve, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us from out in Colorado.
Well, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, John. Great to be with you guys.
So, completely our pleasure. And, like I said, you have this book that's out. You're into recovery, and you're all about your own recovery and certainly helping other people. But, taking the time to do a show like this, we really, really appreciate you taking that time. So, John, take it away, brother.
All right, Steve, tell us all about yourself in the book.
Well, thanks, John. I moved out here out west after getting sober in 2005. My mother passed away. I went through divorce. In those 5 years, I went back to college. All within a 5-year span, this all happened, and I stayed sober through it all. And of course, I was attending meetings daily, and it was a quick, it seemed at the time it was a quick transition for me to come out here and everything. I didn't really think I was prepared, but lo and behold, I made it out here. I wrote this book. It's an inside job, kid, and the title comes from when I first entered AA. I was working in corrections. I had been in corrections, New York State corrections, for about 3 years. And with my past and growing up, I had a rough upbringing. My father ruled with an iron hand, and that combined with my experience in corrections, I did a lot of drinking and a lot of drugging. And I used that to cope with my experience in corrections. And it was about 3 years in, and I had a supervisor come up to me and say, go up and see the EAP coordinator. And I didn't know what it was about. That's, when you're in the middle of your addiction, it's like confusing.
Well, you're like an ostrich. You got your head in the sand and your ass up in the air and think nobody sees you.
There you go. You know that. You know how that works. So he sends me up to see, and he was a wonderful man. As I look back on him, Tom. He showed me my timesheet and everything, and looked at this whole scheduling that I was late using sick time. I was on time abuse, and he said, "Steve, my supervisor wants me to tell you, we'd like you to go into a rehab and see if we can take care of this problem. And I'm like, rehab? I don't think so. I'm good. It's been a little rough for me lately, but I'll settle down. He says, Steve, you don't understand. Either you go or you're out the door. So I didn't have much of a choice. And I went to a 30-day program up in Binghamton, New York. And I got out, and it was, I've had more than one spiritual awakening, but getting to the title, that year was 1984, and I was struggling. I knew it all, didn't accept my problem as being a problem. And I was really struggling. And this old timer, Bob Judge, and I can use his name now, he passed away years ago. And he said this, I wasn't the only one, but he looked me straight in the eye one day when I was just resisting. And I was kind of like, hey, I don't understand. What do I got to do? I don't get this. And he looked me straight in the eye. He says, it's an inside job, kid. And I've been on a quest ever since then to go inside and learn that, drinking wasn't the real problem. It was the issues that I had, the traumas, all of the psychological stuff that puts you in the position of trying to numb yourself and not feel. And that's where I was at. And Bob, I still remember that to this day. And it made a lot of sense. I had to go inside instead of blaming others, pointing the finger outside of me.
So you started in 1984, you said, right?
Yeah.
But you have 18 years clean. So I guess you must have relapsed in between.
Oh, so it was my
I started in 1984 also.
Right. I noticed that. I watched your show a couple of times and I heard you say that. And it's like, geez, that's when I started, but I didn't stick with it.
Yeah, well, I was fortunate. I don't even know how it happened. I told them I wouldn't even get high with you people. I don't even know what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Well, when I first, what I heard about people in AA was like, those people aren't me. I don't want nothing to do with them. They're drunks and bums and this and that. I mean, as a 21-year-old kid, your ego you're riding pretty high, and no pun intended, but it was one of those things that I didn't want to associate with them. And I kept going back in and back out. And it got to the point where I've been in mental institutions. I was arrested once for DWI when I worked in Greenhaven. And, I was lucky. I got away with a lot. And I think that once I figured out that this isn't working for me, that day came in 2005. I was drinking a Michelob and sitting at the bar. It was a Super Bowl Sunday. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. And that was my last drink. And a lot had happened after that. But I'm kind of all over the place. Did you have another question?
Yeah, no, part of your story is like a similar story for all of us, and the bottom line is that you finally realized, which was a blessing, that you're down the wrong road, man.
Well,
and
yeah.
and the bottom line is stuff happens in recovery. And a lot of addicts and alcoholics, they go back to their old ways because they say they can't deal with it. But, what the bottom line is that stuff is always going to happen. If stuff is not happening in your life, that means you're dead.
Right.
So that's just the way it is. So you got to enjoy the ups and work through the downs.
Right.
And
well,
that's life.
I went through a lot of the stuff. I'm sorry, John. I just wanted to, before I forget, I wanted to make the point that when I said I went, I wasn't necessarily in jail. I worked in a jail for 19 years in different jails. I mean, I was doing my own type of time, but the mental institutions, I was on 5 or 6 psychotropic drugs for 12 years. I went through shock therapy. I went to 2 rehabs. The second one was on my own. I decided to go when I had shot up heroin. That was the final straw for me. And that wasn't such a good experience. And that scared me enough that, you know, if I'm starting to do something like this, I need to do something. I need to get with it. I always said when I was going in and out of the program, the AA, I used to say, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I admitted it all the time. That was what I started out with. My name's Steve and I'm an alcoholic. But the one difference for me that took the longest for me to understand is I never actually accepted it. I said it, but I never accepted it. And so that kept me out there for a long time until, you know, you hit bottom and finally understand that, you know, I'm going to end up dead if I don't do something.
What happened?
I don't know. Hold on a second. There we go.
Did we lose something?
We just had a small glitch in just a second, so it's all fine. So
Okay.
go ahead and pick up right where you were.
Okay. So anyhow, you know, I'd been traveling around the country. After I left New York, I traded work for rent on horse ranches for a couple of years. And I got to see a lot of this country. And I would attend meetings in different states. And that was a unique experience for me. But I'll be honest with you. My life has changed quite a bit. My partner, Ann, her and I have been together for about 6 years now. And we made the choice to help raise her grandchildren. And her grandchildren were neglected and sexually and emotionally abused. And I had a lot of time to think about that, but she told me her story before we even started dating. And I made up my mind that I wanted to help her. I thought about my childhood. I loved my father, but he wasn't there for me. There were 7 of us in our family, 6 boys and a girl. And I just remember not having a father has to be a terrible experience for children. And
Well, you know, you're helping God's kids. That's number one.
yeah,
And number two, I love having people like you on the show is because what you show, no matter what, no matter if you relapse, no matter if you've been in mental institutions, no matter if your life was, you know, hard as can be, you can still come out of that hole in the ground and just keep going forward and see some daylight. And that's what these stories are really about. And a lot of people give up. They figure, well, I know what to do and I just don't do it. And I keep doing the same thing over again. I'm never going to change. And, you know, they go through all that stuff. And what I keep telling people is that, look, if you keep going, you'll get the job done. Keep going to a program, keep going to therapy, keep searching the inside of what's going on with you, and you'll see you'll get better.
never give up. The miracle will happen. It will
Well,
happen.
that was my book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up.
There
That's
you
what I
go.
named it.
That's mine is you're never alone. Never give up. The miracle will happen. And you know, there was I hope people will get a chance to get my book and see how far down I went, and I came this close to taking my own life.
Right.
And miraculously, a phone call came right before I was about to do the deed, and it's all in the book there. It's a miraculous thing that it happened, and that wasn't the only time. So
Must have been painful writing because I know when I wrote my book about my life, I cried, I laughed, I put it down. I couldn't see it anymore for a while, and then I
yeah,
got back to it. I don't know if the same thing happened to you, but that's what happened to me.
yeah, it did, John. Absolutely, just the way you described it. When you're putting this down in the pages, and then you're
It's like doing a fourth step. Yeah,
what's that?
it's like doing a fourth step.
Yeah, and it was. There were times when I started crying when I was writing it. You know, it's the PTSD part with a lot of my stuff that I've been diagnosed with that. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Um, it writing it was something that I did it for myself. I mean, I needed to get that out, but in my heart, I know I wanted other people to see that they're not alone.
Right.
That I'm sure there's things that other people may have experienced that were worse than mine. I'm sure of that, but just to let them know you're not alone. Get your story out, share your story, get it out, and then let it go.
Yeah, give people hope. See, the problem is today is that treatment centers today are 70 years behind the times. Talk therapy is not the only thing that you need to do. You need to eat properly.
Yeah.
No sugars, no processed food. You need to exercise. You need to take care of the body that God of your understanding gave you. To me, God gave me the gift of life, and it's what I do with that life is my gift back to God. So, if you start mistreating your body, what are you doing? See, getting clean and sober is not just about drugs and alcohol and these behaviors. It's about living a quality life, and it's about giving back because we're selfish and self-centered. So it's all about us.
Yeah.
So to me, it's about giving back to the human race, doing our best to make a better world as best we can.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
but taking care of ourselves first.
Right.
Otherwise, you can't help anybody.
I totally agree with you. And it's a fine line. I struggle sometimes with people or talking with people without sounding too idealistic. But it sometimes sounds that way, but it's true. It's about helping others and giving back. Before we leave, before I leave, I wanted to do this. And I'm going to say, raising these kids, it's not easy because, frankly, it's a little emotional for me. But these kids hold a mirror up to my face, and the triggers that I get when their behavior affects me.
How old are the kids?
Well, the oldest turned 15.
Oh boy.
Or last month, and the youngest is 7. We got them when they were 2 and 9. So it's been a while. And
well, here's what you get. You're not my parents. You're not my father. You're not this. You're not that. What are you telling me?
I made my mistakes, but they hold that mirror, especially the older one. She holds a mirror up to me, and I see. I still got a way to go. I got a lot of work to do on myself.
And listen, when you stop working, okay, that's when you stop growing. See, one thing I learned in life, I want to remain a student because the better student I am, the better teacher I'll become.
Absolutely. John, that's all I heard from my sponsor, Kenny Kerrigan, who's passed on now. He had 32 years, right around there, of sobriety. You say, remain teachable. Stay in the now.
That's right.
Get honest with yourself.
We tell people that, but it's very difficult to do. And, and I always tell people, look, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So the bottom line is, how well do you want to be?
You got to want to get better.
Yeah, you have to want to get. But some people think, they want to get better, but they think they can't. And you see, that's what we call stinking thinking. Yeah. Okay. And the bottom line is you could be whatever you want to be. You just got to work at it. And sometimes it takes 100 times to get something right. But if you keep going, eventually you'll get it.
Yeah. 7 was the number for me. And I almost didn't make it. In my book, I share that. I share intimate details of the things that I did in my life. And that was a battle. To have to, do that, but it was something that needed to be done.
Right, I did the same thing.
Yourself, all of that, But the bottom line, like you said, it's about helping others. It's that's what it's about.
Well, you can't have shame in your game because then you can't help anybody, because then you bring up their shame. So the bottom line is to say, look, this is what's happened to me, and this is how you can overcome it. This way you become relatable. Otherwise, you're not relatable. Talking from a book means nothing. Talking from life experience is a whole other ballgame.
Right.
I always
And
tell people you can read a book about football, but until you play it, you're not going to know the game.
right. There was Eckhart Tolle is someone that I used to love
Oh
to
yeah,
still do. And he described in his first book, he says, you can tell someone about honey. You can describe it. You can describe the texture. You can describe the taste. But he says you'll never understand what it is until you taste it yourself.
that's right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's why I'm on the journey I'm on now because I went partners in a ketamine clinic, and ketamine was a street drug, right? And I was a little resistant to do that because it's a street drug, this is baloney, da. But then I started looking at the research, and I started looking at how people were getting helped, okay, and how the government really uh, really put down psychedelics.
Mhm.
And psychedelics, when done in a medical facility, done in a proper environment with counselors and therapy, uh, it really works very well. Better than the SSRIs that people are doing, like Prozac and Wellbutrin and Abilify, all these other drugs that really don't work very well. Okay, I'm not telling people not to do that, but what I am saying is that check out these other things that are going on now in the country
Yeah.
because they really do work. Otherwise, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be involved with it if it didn't work.
And I read that. I was reading about you and about your business down there. At the end of my book, there's an interesting paragraph or two about my time with AA, and there's different avenues, there's different paths to take on this journey if you're willing to take it. And full disclosure here. At about 10 years when I moved out west here, and I was going through having anxiety. And here in Colorado, I started using marijuana to help my
Help
my
with the
anxiety.
anxiety.
I don't, and it got to the point where instead I was start beginning to self medicate with it. So I needed to stop it. I also just back in December, trying to still work through issues. I had done ayahuasca, and
Okay.
talk about the psychotropics, and they use that. They're finding these other drugs, which I'm scared to talk about because people are still struggling, and I don't want them to think that this is a good avenue, depending on their time and sobriety. But dealing with PTSD, my PTSD with working in corrections. There were things that happened that I couldn't talk about. I'd start to cry. Cognitive behavioral therapy. That's another one, and that's kind of a solid.
You see, what people don't understand about psychedelics is, look, it's not a magic bullet. Number one. Number
Right.
two, you need to have integrative therapists that are going to work with you. So what we do at our clinic, they get 2 hours. It's included in the journey of the ketamine of integrative counseling, and then once a week I do group therapy as long as they want to come. All right. So
Can you
and
do
no
that
charge.
virtually?
No charge. As long as they want to come, we do group therapy.
Can you do that virtually too?
Yep, we do it on Zoom.
Okay, well, that's something I might be interested in.
Well, what we do is we use it, for our own patients, our own clients. I don't do it with outside people.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise I won't be able to do it. We have so many people. So we just do it with our patients. But it's something that I instituted in the clinic because I don't want short-term results. I want long-term care. And there's no quick fix to anything. So if anybody thinks that any of these psychedelics are quick fixes, they're not.
Right.
What they are is another road, okay, to recovery, including going to meetings, including therapy, including eating right, including doing exercise. You got to look at everything, not just one little thing that's going to help you. And that's just the bottom line.
Like
So
a holistic approach. Yeah.
it's a comprehensive approach. That's what holistic means. Holism means comprehensiveness.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how we look at. We even do micronutrient tests. I even added brain mapping, where we put electrodes on your head and measure the electrical output of your brain to show where you're deficient. And then we do neurofeedback also to help strengthen those quadrants in the brain that are deficient. We do a lot of different things. We do
Well, that's
NAD plus. All
Are
kinds.
are you familiar with Joe Dispenza?
Sure. I love Joe Dispenza.
I
He
met
is
him.
the best. He's the best lecturer. One of the best I've ever heard.
Yeah, when I was living in Sedona, he was in at the Illuminated Film Festival, and I was one of his handlers. I was working as a assistant production manager.
Oh, really? He's terrific. He's really bright. I love
He's a
the way
funny guy too. He's got a good sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah, not only that, the way he's a neuroscientist, the way he explains how the brain the functionality and how you can change your thoughts, it makes it a very simplified methodology, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with him too.
Absolutely.
Well, we're getting down to a little bit of time left here, and the discussion's been great. I want to kind of circle back around, Steve, for a moment and ask you. You wrote this book. It's an Inside Job Kid, and I'm going to remind everybody once again, it's available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. So again, it's an Inside Job Kid. You wrote the book. I mean, is this something you're going to be doing more of, or is this a one and done kind of deal for you? Or, well, where's Steve going next?
Scott, I've tried to contemplate this, or I've contemplated this for a while, writing more. And I spent 4 years on this book, and I tried to edit it myself. I love to write, but of course you don't edit your own work. That doesn't work out so well, And
I tried to. It didn't work out too good.
You end up erasing everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a background story to that too in itself, but I finally had some professionals work on it and edit it and proof it, and the interior design, the cover, all that. I would like to do more, but I don't think I could be as effective alone as I would with doing it with someone else. I would like to have a co-collaborator, and that's what I'm looking at right now. I've got a bunch of ideas spinning around there that for another book, but for the time being, I'd like to get this one going, and I think if I can get the readership and get the feedback I need to improve myself as a writer, I think I'd have a better time of going on with something else. But I need that feedback, and I'm hoping that that book will sell, and it's going to help people, and maybe encourage me to do something else.
All right. Well, you're on the right path as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you.
I like that a lot. You mentioned Binghamton, New York. You got sober there. I'm from Syracuse. That's where
I grew up in Elmira. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I grew up in Syracuse, and then I went to Jersey, and then my life went to hell.
That's because you didn't go to the South Bronx.
I went to Jersey.
Then you really went to hell.
They wouldn't let me in the South Bronx, John.
Well, I had my brother lived in Woodside in Queens. I spent a lot of time in the city. I used to drive limo in the city too.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. You probably drove around some of your relatives.
Yep.
Well, that's when I was sober.
So he's still alive.
He's still must have done a good job. One last question I want to put out there, and I like to kind of put a bow on a lot of this. Obviously your recovery is important to you, and your that little glitch you're seeing that we're seeing. This isn't appearing on the show, so let's not panic about it. Just a little glitch, but Steve, you obviously care very much about what you do and your journey and where you are now.
Yeah,
I want to know, you and your wife taking on the responsibility of these children and doing what you do.
Yeah, she's my partner. We're not married, so.
Oh, all right, you and your partner. Okay.
Her grandchildren. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You and your partner. I'm surprised she hasn't hit you over the head for not marrying her yet, but you got a good one if you didn't have to.
She don't want to get married.
Oh, wow. You got a great one.
Oh, she's a pilot. She's a flight instructor. She's
wow.
ahead of me in a lot of areas. So.
Free spirit. I want to know, have you been able to take your story and help those children through the struggles that they've gone through? You mentioned they went through struggles. Do you share your story and the struggles that you went through with them? And has that helped your family to start to heal from all of the issues?
Well, I mean, that's been a struggle for me. I've wanted to, like the oldest one, wonderful kid. But she's got, she went through a lot from 6 years old to 9 years old, and I went through foster homes and things that I couldn't even think I would be able to deal with. A lot more than what I went through as a kid. But her grandmother and I have talked about it, and I've mentioned things. I've read her excerpts, hoping that would help or sink in. But a lot of the book I wouldn't want her to read at this age yet. I don't know if she would be ready, considering what she'd gone through, if that would be such a good idea. But I do try, in answer to your question, Scott, I do try to incorporate some of those issues in disciplining the kids and the whys and everything. But, kids at that age, especially the oldest one at 15, it's a lecture. And I tend to end up doing a little lecturing, but I try not to. I try to be as down to earth and grounded when I talk to her as much as possible, and use some of the experiences I had that are in my book that I can share with her. So
wonderful. I only bring it up because John and I often talk about, with my family, with John's family, our recovery is a family journey, and we all, I with my kids and the issues that they've had, losing their mother to the addiction and all those things that have happened, being able to share that story. And John's constantly, his family's completely involved in his recovery too, right?
Yeah. My son's got going on 18, 19 years now. I went through hell with him, but
good
that's
thing
life
share.
in the big city.
Yeah, well, yes, city life isn't for everybody, that's for sure. But when you talk about that and the family unit and everything, it is important. Both of my daughters live back in New York, in Buffalo, and in Elmira, and thankfully they don't have the problem that I had, and it's a tough one. I try to use my experience to help the kids, and one of the reasons why Ann involved me with this and felt confident, which it was hard for me because I wasn't even so sure myself, because of what I went through. But I worked after corrections. I worked in a rehab up in Ithaca, New York, as a residential counselor. I had worked in child protective services for a short time, and with those experiences and that training, she thought that would be helpful, being involved in this situation. And to be honest, it has helped me a lot. But again, as I pointed out to you, John, I'm getting a mirror held up to me. Like,
well, you got to remember, she's 15. Remember when you were 15? See, you got to understand, it takes time to learn what we learned. So what happens, you start getting frustrated. They can't see what you see, right? And what you have to understand is they're not ready. This is like a 3-minute egg. Okay, can't take it out before, you can't take it after, because it's not a 3-minute egg anymore. So you have to look at them like a 3-minute egg. They're not ready. So all you can say, look, this is my experience. Do what you can with it and let it go. Otherwise, you're going to get frustrated. Going, how come you don't see this?
Exactly. That's my response.
I know. I go through that too sometimes.
What's that, John?
I go through that too sometimes. So I got it.
So if you haven't learned anything from our show today, kids are like boiled eggs. All right, that's what we want the point to be. That's what we want everybody.
Kids are like 3-minute eggs. That's what they are.
Great to meet have a conversation with another New Yorker. Appreciate you, Central New Yorker and Central New Yorker. Tully Hill, you weren't there, were you?
Tully Hill? No, I've known some people there. This was called CARS. Cayuga Addiction Recovery Services.
Oh, okay. All right.
In New York, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, listen, Steve, can't tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time to be on with us, coming to us from out in Colorado. Reminder, it's an Inside Job, Kid, on Amazon Kindle and Audible. It's a book about the journey to recovery and what Steven's learned. we definitely want people to pick that up.
Absolutely.
And Steve, hopefully we'll have you back again sometime. We'll talk some more. So there's so much to talk about when we're talking about these kind of years of recovery and in our journey to get there.
Well, thank you so much. John Scott, I really appreciate.
Oh, you're very welcome. Listen,
Means
we
a
got to
lot.
get the message out, and I hope people listen. Sometimes people don't have the patience to listen through a podcast, but that's their loss.
Yeah. If you can't sit still that long, you probably should go to a meeting. All right. I'm just saying. Just saying. All right, folks. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us. Reminder, please check out johnjgiordano.com for more information about John and his books. And certainly make sure you like this show and share it with your friends. Final thought, John.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I wrote my book. That's why you wrote your book, because we got to get these messages out because people feel hopeless. And there's nothing about hopelessness, okay, and helplessness. You can get out from under wherever you are. He's got his story. I got my story. And there's so many stories like this that people really got into recovery. And recovery is more not just about drugs and alcohol or behaviors. It's about living a quality life and reaching out and at least giving back to the planet. All right. So not only about, give me, me. Okay. Because I learned this, the more you give in a balanced way, the more you get. And you don't give to get, but you just give freely. That's about it.
All right. So again, for our guest, Steve Moffe, John Giordano, I'm your co-host, Scott Jones, saying thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time right here on Beat Your Addiction.